Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast from the host Imperial Dane, featuring today a 1 vs 1 on wrecked trains. It's been some time since we've seen a match on wrecked trains, but here we go. We shall be watching SSthEliteJager fighting for the Panzerelite, fighting for the 2nd SS Panzer Division, Das Reich. Opposing him shall be ExitOzo, who shall be going out with a 3-engineer start. He's obviously going to see if he can't capture as much territory away before ExitOzo begins hitting his positions. Also note, he halfway finishes the barracks, sends the engineers on, then has another squad finishing it. Why, might you ask? Because, well, if he finishes this one, anyways, he's not going to have a rifleman squad ready right away. On the other hand, he can quicker take some territory and can have the 2nd engineer squad, or 3rd one, finish it up. In that sense, the barracks will be ready for a rifleman squad, and he'll be a bit closer to having some initial territory. Also note from ExitOzo, no Panzergrenadiers first, 2 Kettenkrats. He's obviously out to quickly seize some territory as well, so for both sides we are seeing a race to gain as much territory as possible, and that way using other units, that way freeing up the infantry for shooting up the enemy, which is in particular vital for the Panzergrenadiers, as they're not really meant for taking ground. Kettenkrat heading up here. Fun fact about the Kettenkrat, was actually meant as a very, very light tractor meant for airborne and glider units, basically to sort of move about their artillery. And that way could sort of be moved out. It although ended up being used for many other things. Transport, some Panzergrenadier battalions in fact were mounted on Kettenkrats, and otherwise were basically used to taxi aircraft later on, when basically aviation fuel was too expensive or valuable for even that. So, a fun little vehicle. Panzergrenadiers marching up. Gewehr 43 already equipped for one of the squads. The Gewehr 43, a semi-automatic rifle of the Germans, based on the Soviet SVT-40. The Germans did have another one, but that did not quite work out. On the other hand, once they captured the SVT-40, figured that out, they rather had their own semi-automatic rifle by then. Riflemen sneaking up west, engineers heading up center, and going for the fuel point over there. And looks like ExitOzo is initially focusing on the right-hand side, the right-hand center. Obviously going to focus on what he can hold, although of course Panzergrenadiers are then switching towards where he thinks that is clear of enemy and sending out his Panzergrenadier. Getting 1 engineer, and I'm getting hiccups. Absolutely brilliant. But Kettenkrat's continue to secure territory. More riflemen on the way for... Also, he will soon have his 2nd squad of riflemen out in the field. There we go. Point being secured there. A bit of quiet. Squad of Panzergrenadiers number 3 setting up the Kampfgruppe Kompanie for ExitOzo. Few there being secured. Looks like he's shifting back, leaving 1 squad to hold up this area. Clearly ExitOzo is not quite on the warpath yet, so waiting a bit for that. Panzer is going to move over here against the engineers. Kampfgruppe Kompanie soon up. Engineers are coming under fire, taking a few losses, and getting run off.
The fly lines are broken. We have territory.
And there we go, the Kettenkrat getting pushed off, rifle squad moving up there, and continuing progress up here. So far, Ozo's initial sort of idea is to basically avoid any major firefights with ExitOzo, because he can't quite afford them. On the other hand, he's just basically going to use what he does have, which is a large amount of units that can take territory overall faster than ExitOzo, and basically just harass and take away territory. It's a much more, less aggressive in some ways, physically aggressive, but nonetheless other ways, it is aggressive, and it's certainly, causing ExitOzo some problem, because he can't currently cover everything. So again, he has to sort of, bite down on what there's left, allowing Ozo to gain a lot more territory than him, which can be used for an initial advantage. Right over here, though, the riflemen are running into a bit of a problem. 2 Panzergrenadier squads, including the one with the Gewehr 43, opening up on the riflemen and really taking the living daylight out of them, gunning them down to 1 man. Come on, Hank, make a run for it. And looks like he pulls off a Forrest Gump and makes it back to base. Going up there for the munitions, securing the central victory point. And we are seeing a Panzerjäger command rush. There's the armored car rush from ExitOzo. Pretty much a standard of Panzerelite players. Rather going to sneak over there, Panzergrenadier is going to deal with that. More Gewehr 43s. No attempt at assault rifles from ExitOzo. Bit of a shame. And there we go, Panzergrenadiers opening up on the riflemen. Others fighting over here. Riflemen advancing straight straight into the Panzergrenadiers. Might be able to win it. On the other hand, the Panzergrenadiers could easily win this, and it looks like they are slowly. On the other hand, the riflemen over here in heavy cover are definitely with a greater advantage against the Panzergrenadiers, who are already a bit wounded. And it looks like the riflemen were in fact able to win against the Panzergrenadiers. Quickly sending the squad off, and of course the thing to remember about the Panzergrenadier squad is it much quicker becomes less combat effective due to its lower numbers. So you can much quicker, just damage a squad and render it considerably less combat effective by just, killing one poor bastard. Same, just killing one man can very swiftly change things in your favor. Of course, it's also why it's important for the Panzer Elite to have defensive operations up, and not necessarily a bad idea to, within some time, get increased squad sizes up. Panzergrenadiers, though, getting forced away, shifting towards here. Mines going down, though. Bit of a... I'm not entirely sure that's a good move from Ozo. We know his opponent has a lot of Kenkrats, and they do spot mines. I mean, in fact, yeah, they're spotting out them all, and that's going to be pretty much easy job for the Panzergrenadiers and the Leichte Panzerschwebwagen to sort out. And there we go, the engineers themselves are now coming under intense and ruthless, merciless fire, and there we go, mines getting detonated by the autocannon. And quickly pushing onwards, the Kenkrat lighting the way, or at least spotting out those damn Yankee mains. And there we go, second mine blown up, and a small ammunition crate spontaneously combusts as well. Motor pool going up. Note, Ozo had no intention of fighting here very long. He was clearly intending to get an armoured car to deal with the Kraut armoured cars. This one being the lighter one, which was later on in fact replaced, since, well, 4 wheels was not really much use for an armoured car that might, be needed off the roads as well. And that was rather the problem, where it wasn't really useful, so they rather opted instead for a light half-track, which was itself discontinued because they basically figured out that the medium half-track was overall good enough for being used for reconnaissance duties as well. So they focused production there and shifted armoured car production towards the half-tracks, and so things shifted about a bit in that sense. Rather than here coming under fire, Kenkrat sneaking about, and we are seeing a Panzer Support Command, of course. EliteJager probably expecting, of course, that there's going to be an armoured car to stop his armoured car, which again is the pretty much common response, for which, again, the common response is the anti-tank half-track. I mean, there's a lot of, basically, you get this, then I get that, then you get this, and then we, somehow win it out. I mean, there's a lot more, well, pretty obvious paths for the Panzer Elite versus the Americans. It's sort of the same thing with Wehrmacht versus Brits. There's... the game tends to sort of devolve into a very same thing all the time, which again can be what some players find a bit off-putting. But we do see a T-17 out for Ozo, so no need for munitions upgrades. Gets a nice shot there on the Kenkrat. Second shot misses. Pushes forward for the 37mm gun, and second shot, there we go. Kenkrat is lost. And there we go, the light anti-tank half-tank out for EliteJager was actually a squad platoon leader vehicle, in fact, for such a unit. Was later on actually replaced with a 2cm anti-aircraft gun, which could then, of course, also protect against air units, but also let's lay down some more impressive fire against infantry units. But T-17 doing what it can, armoured car coming a bit under fire, but we are going to see that light anti-tank half-tank move up. Rather than doing what it can, another hit on a Panzergrenadier. Not yet actually gained some veterancy. And there we go, the light anti-tank half-tank getting a bit bold. And we are seeing an anti-tank coming out for Ozo. Rifleman coming under fire. T-17 moves forward. Wants to get the armor cover at the same time. I think Ozo right here got a bit too cocky. And instead he's ended up with his T-17 with an engine on fire. And it is pretty much not going to be moving anywhere. Of course, he's trying to get it. I mean, the rifle and the T-17 are doing some damage, but... I mean, he's going to need something in quickly, and at the same time, we do see another light anti-tank half-tank rolling out for EliteJager. And we are seeing a Luftwaffe squad. Probably sent in from the 17th Luftwaffe Felddivision, or possibly from some flak crew without a flak. And they usually, that way, found themselves employed as replacement infantry for some units.
Up the ante.
Second anti-tank half-tank moving up. T-17 getting repaired. Armoured car moving up. This could very well end up poorly. Of course, he could try stunning it with a white phosphorus rounds. I mean, he has the munitions for it, but nothing happening. And there we go. 2 anti-tank half-tanks flying away, and there we go. The T-17 is a wreck. Fell apart under the heavy barrage of the 37mm packs mounted there on the half-tracks. Panzergrenadiers moving up the left flank, though again, I mean, currently Ozo does have a nice chunk of the map. I mean, he just took a bit of a blow there. The question is, can EliteJager actually exploit this blow? I mean, he's even got the Luftwaffe troops who can actually be used, to apply some pressure. I mean, they are essentially Volksgrenadiers, just a little less health, but overall, I mean, well supported, they can do quite a decent job against your opponents. But a lot of people just use them as the repair guys, and then otherwise neglect a unit that can add a bit of firepower and ultimately slightly turn things in your favor during a firefight. Engineers here, they're getting murdered quite viciously. Another T-17 rolling out for also, so at least he's been confident in the T-17 idea. That is good. For some players, a problem can be they get one armored car, it gets blasted out, and then they basically say, well, then I'm not going to even bother now, am I, Heinz? So, of course, that's a bit of a problem for some players again. Sometimes you just have to try once more, because sometimes you can have a bit of a false start. But there we go, T-17 rolling in, opening up the Panzergrenadiers. Might get a few kills, but also has to be careful. As he now ought to be aware, there are 2 light anti-tank half-tanks on the field, and that also means he has to keep the anti-tank gun nearby. Armored car providing lovely firing support there upon the riflemen. We are seeing some slight movements towards the west. T-17 immobilized again, although we do see the anti-tank gun firing up. Engineers advancing up swiftly this time to repair the anti-tank gun. T-17, although armor coming in, trying to clear out as many engineers, but heavily damaged. Careful, EliteJager. 4/6. Armor car trying to get away. Luftwaffe troops doing what they can. We do see a mortar half-tag up for EliteJager. That should add a bit of fun. And there we go. Incendiary round by the armored car. Anti-tank half-tag, though, is going to go down. EliteJager again. He's getting a bit reckless. He's getting a bit, thinking, I can do this, without necessarily fully thinking it through. BARs pop up. We are seeing the anti-tank half-tag fully away. Luftwaffe ground troop goes down by the mortar half-track. Going for the cut-off point there. But oh dear, looks like EliteJager was not paying attention. Lost a Panzergrenadier squad. Gave veterans who wanted the riflemen with the BARs. That's definitely going to hurt. More Panzergrenadiers rolling out. No sign of any Sturmgewehrs. A bit of a shame.
Enemy unit down.
And another vehicle went down. Oh, that was the armored car this time. Luftwaffe troops are left to hold the line. And they are clearly not in condition with that amount of health. And certainly not without any veterans here at all. But riflemen here are actually taking punishing casualties from the mortars. And there you go, the Panzer is going to push forward. So there's only one rifleman squad to hold it all back. Rangers arriving for ExitOzo to lead the way, getting the Thompson submachine gun. At the same time fighting over the victory points right there. Sneaky. And another anti-tank half-track from Elite SSthEliteJager. And I mean, he's actually had to pay a lot of resources for that. I mean, that's his 3rd anti-tank half-track. That's not necessarily a good statistic. And there we go, Panzer's kick quickly getting pushed off as the Rangers add their weight. Repairing the mortar half-track. Sneaking up there. And a bit of quiet overall. Although we do see the T-17 pulling up again. Not entirely sure why also insist on treating it like a light tank. And there we go, going to get knocked out. Fallschirmjägers arriving for EliteJager. Probably from the 2nd Fallschirmjäger Division. And mortar round takes it out. Looks like the Fallschirmjäger clears out the anti-tank gun. Rangers on there at the same time pulling up against the half-tracks. Fallschirmjägers are going to get quickly pulled back. Luftwaffe troops doing what they can. And there we go. Ranger gets killed by the light anti-tank half-track. Panzer goes moving up. But the Rangers continue on undeterred. Also here, getting a bit overconfident. Riflemen moving in. Rangers though clearly need to get out of there. Down to one man. I don't think they'll make it. And the Rangers got wiped out to a man. That was definitely the folly of Ozo. Riflemen here though at the same time getting punished severely and getting run off. But securing the fuel over there. Continued harassment. Continued evasion of the main fights with the engineers and basically just trying to keep all Elite Jaeger contained with this area. And that's actually something that Ozo is having quite some luck with. But the losses he's suffering is rather, you know, counterproductive. And of course, after that's gone, Elite Jaeger can then advance. Of course, he doesn't have to worry that much about a counterattack. Although right there, Elite Jaeger's anti-tank half-tech was a bit too happy. Stealing an anti-tank gun. Fallschirmjäger's moving up to try and cover the retreat of the anti-tank half-track. No FG-42 though. That would definitely help the Fallschirmjäger right there. Rather than continue to advance. Anti-tank half-track's firing away. Luftwaffe ground troops towing away an anti-tank gun. Panzer is fighting against the engineers. Riflemen getting blasted to bits by the anti-tank half-tracks. Might be some focused fire going on there. That would definitely be a nightmare. Down to one man. Panzer is coming under fire from Riflemen as they go for the cutoff point. Rifleman barely makes it out of there. Very close, very close. Panzergrenadiers moving up there.
We're losing ground out there.
Securing the victory point. A bit of quiet, but I mean, Ozo's strategy is rather turning against him. He's taking too many losses now. Of course, it looks like he might be trying for the off-map combat group in a desperate bid to save his own arse. Of course, a medic station would also have been beneficial for him. Might have helped further with the attrition and overall taking down his opponent in a slightly more stable manner rather than currently where he's very low in infantry. And while he's certainly done some damage to Elite Jaeger's also doing quite a bit of damage to him. And that's rather where the problem appears. Bit of lighter skirmishing there. Riflemen advancing straight into a huge horde of German infantry. I mean, that was definitely a good move there from ExitOzo, and we do see some offensive infantry on the Luftwaffe troops. So now in the middle of the road, suppressive fire from Exit's troops, suppressing as many Germans as he can. Another Fallschirmjäger squad though pops out, but will it be in time? Mortar rounds flying, anti-tank half-tracks blasting away. And some of the Fallschirmjägers are definitely getting killed out in the open. I'm getting hiccups. And there we go, mortar round on the rifleman, down to 2 men. Fallschirmjäger squad was pretty much mauled. And the veteran rifleman, there we go, Sticky Bomb on the mortar half-track. He's clearly intent on clearing out that one. That is definitely a threat to him. Nicely identified, but again, also is taking too many risks in doing so. And we do see a BAR, in fact, pop down. Fallschirmjäger engineer squad down. And if those offensive veterans Luftwaffe troops get that BR, they're definitely going to be a bit more of a menace towards Ozo. And it's actually time for the mid-game analysis. Current situation, grim for Ozo in terms of overall infantry. He's been able to control most of the map. He's been able to keep SSthEliteJager contained, but the problem is the losses, his aggression and his slight recklessness as the game has progressed. Perhaps feeling a bit too confident or desperate, I'm not entirely sure. But he's down to 3 squads, rather more. They are veteran, but I mean, Elite Jaeger has so much more, although not grandly more, but still, he's got 5 squads, also has 3, and they're quite heavily armed, these gentlemen. And of course, there's still the half-tracks, the anti-tank half-track, which with focused fire can take out infantry, and the mortar half-track. I mean, it's rather going to come down to a lucky roll of the off-map combat group. If tank destroyers were to arrive, I mean, Elite Jaeger would be in absolute mountains of trouble. But that's it, really. If it's something lesser, I mean, he's buggered. So it's rather going to come down for a very lucky roll for ExitOzo. Had he perhaps, had a medic station, it might not have been so bad. But again, this is a very risky strategy and clearly one very flawed. Not only one I would necessarily recommend that much, if at all.
The enemy is after our victory point.
The The half-track pool will be in need of repairs, but Luftwaffe troops are busy taking the central victory points, and the points are ticking down for EliteJager. And the anti-tank, and of course, can actually help a bit. I mean, that's really his only major anti-tank asset. I mean, the 37mm guns are not going to help that much. On the other hand, that 57mm gun will be able to put a bit of a fear of the Reich into the American vehicles. But that is, again, about it. Panzergrenadiers being fanned out on the far western flank. 40mm moving out in force on the right flank, while the Luftwaffe troops, and that means the center is basically considerably weak. And of course the west flank is not too strong either, because again, EliteJager has spread his Panzergrenadiers out too far. The only thing where he can really manage any force is the right flank, and that should not really have been the case. And instead we do see a nice push going on here from Ozo straight at the half-tracks, which can't do anything. Anti-tank gun exposed as well. Engineer unit does go down, but again, we do see that there's currently a very, very real risk that EliteJager suffers something, but the flak failing blasts away. Anti-tank gun though gets decrewed. 40mm is now flanking about, hitting the rifle in the rear. Rifle will need to escape this.
We are losing a sector.
Or will they get the drop on the Jägers? The losses are definitely happening quickly. And there we go, mortar round. Oh dear. You could see a rifle squad go down for ExitOzo. And there we go. Veteran T2 rifle squad went down to the Jägers. Definitely going to be something. Also will have sleepless nights over. And returning back to EliteJager again. 5 infantry squads. 2, but there we go. And we do see 2 tank destroyers, an armored car, and a rifle squadron. I mean, that's, as I imagine, as far as ExitOzo concerned, is enough proof there is a god. Or at least a Satan, who is currently supporting him. I'm not entirely sure. Certainly not a religious man. But tank destroyers are pushing onwards. We are seeing the FD-42 finally going up for the Jäger. Panzer command upgrade. T-17 moving forwards. And of course, I mean, a Panzer IV at this stage could probably pretty much have finished off this match. Although a bit earlier, but now of course there's the tank destroyers about. T-17 rolls up to the Jägers. And of course, question is, will EliteJager now be prepared? Will he be prepared for the final fight? And there you go, tank destroyers rolling up. And I imagine that was quite the surprise for EliteJager. He's got the anti-tank, and that's really it. His anti-tank half-tracks are getting sent to Kingdom Come, to the great scrap heap in the sky. But they're going to tank and gets off a nice hit on the anti-tank half-track. 40mm and Panzergrenadiers fighting here. And there we go. Tank is out of control, but the anti-tank half-track was knocked out. T-17 opening up the Panzergrenadiers, falling back from the center. Veteran T going up even for the anti-tank gun, impressively enough. But also was definitely able to throw another spanner in EliteJager's works. And the problem is, again, for EliteJager, slightly unfortunate, usage of his infantry. He's not really managing to break through. And even despite how little infantry that also has, I mean, he's not really taking any. And it's just not quite working for EliteJager. He's being too passive in some ways, and his force composition is not really helping him. Also note, offensive veteran T2 for the Luftwaffe squad with a BAR. And we are seeing the Kampfgruppe company upgrade. I imagine EliteJager might in fact be hoping for a Panther battle group, but also could very much gain a large part of the map and definitely hold the 3 victory points again for much longer, because again, points are really draining down for EliteJager. He needs to take it. And there we go, the Luftwaffe forces bringing up the rear. 40mm leading the way. Looks like the second SS are largely out of the fight here, mostly leaving it to Luftwaffe troops of one or the other kind. And there we go, making a direct advance at the riflemen, pushing them away. Quite nicely, the T-17 moving up though. Kevin going to prove a Bane. And going up here, the Panzergrenadiers. So finally a bit more of a focused effort again from EliteJager. What he needed. And now he needs to get those 2 victory points before it's all too late. And tank and being manhandled forward, setting up mortars, firing as well in support. And there we go, T-17 takes a direct hit and quickly gets the devil out of there. Oh, setting off. That was bloody close. That could easily have taken out the armoured car. Had that mortar run fallen just a second earlier, I mean, that would have been goodbye for ExitOzo right there. But rather than pushing it straight for the anti-tank gun, Luftwaffe troops, Fallschirmjägers, everything doing what they can. And there we go. The Riflemen are going to get pushed straight past all of this, and they are going to go down. BAR left behind, in fact, 4 Elite Jaegers to secure. And there we go. Tank destroyer flying about, and artillery getting called in on the anti-tank gun. And looks like the mortar after could go down. Anti-tank gun opens up, and we could see a Panzerfaust. There we go. And the Panzerfaust gets the M10, leaving Ozo once more very short on a lot of things, including infantry. But the anti-tank gun, though, was wrecked. The crew was killed. Panzer's going straight here against veterans into infantry. Elite Jaeger is clearly not quite paying attention to what's going on due to the armoured car, and he's likely going to lose these Panzergrenadiers. Another horrible loss. Panther battle group has been prepared, but will it be in time? And will the question be, would it not have been better spending those resources on something else, like say a Marder and a Panzer IV? I mean, that could just as well do the trick. The Marder with some support could hold back the tank destroyers. The Panzer IV could tear through the infantry. And there we go, the M10, another off-map combat group by the looks of it, with more riflemen and an heavy machine gun, in fact. Desperate fighting from the SS and its Luftwaffe allies, but not quite succeeding, I fear. And there we go, the mortar half-tank is exposed. The tank destroyer is going to move in and deliver the coup de grace, the killing blow. Fallschirmjäger is pushed away from the center under heavy fire. And once more, the victory points are lost for Elite Jaeger. Tank destroyer moving forward, trying to get, not quite successfully shooting off. And the flak filling rounds bounce off harmlessly against the armor of the tank destroyer. And a bit of running around here for the mortar half-tank, but it stops up. It stops up. It's going to be a target now. It's going to go down. No, it managed to escape once more. The duel of defensive energy, allowing it to be swift enough to escape. Further fighting going on left and right. Unit going down, and there we go. The mortar half-tank is finally lost, finally destroyed, finally ended. But the Panther battle group is very close, and the flak filling right here is taking direct hits from the tank destroyer at the same time as its own shells fail to do anything to the tank destroyers, bouncing off like rocks. And there we go, the flak filling is dead, the crew murdered. But at the same time, Panthers arrive, sent in to support the efforts right here. Luftwaffe troops moving up the right side. Panthers pulling up the center. And an attempt at mining right there from ExitOzo. Panther needs to pull away. Panther needs to pull away. No, he's moving closer to the rifle. And we do see a sticky bomb off on the Panther. Really off to a poor start right there for Elite Jaeger's Panthers. And moving ahead again with the other Panther, trying to crush as many as Fallschirmjägers move up the flank, but they are low on men. And overall now Elite Jaeger is the one taking the heavy losses. Tank destroyer went down. Another sticky bomb on the other Panther. This is not looking good. And the Luftwaffe troops have gone down. Rifleman squad killed. Another off-map combat group, this time providing lots of support units. In fact, only one squad of riflemen. 30 caliber being pushed away. Desperate fighting for the victory points as they continue to go down for Elite Jaeger. And a bit of offensive efficiency for the Panther. A small blessing for Elite Jaeger, going to allow it to have an easier chance killing some infantry. But there we go, sticky bomb rain against it. And Fallschirmjägers down to 2 men now, suppressed by the 30 caliber anti-tank gun moving in from the north. We could also be seeing other support weaponry, and in fact they just got pinned And another 40mm unit, also heavily depleted, moving up against the mortar and the anti-tank gun. While the 30 caliber and some other bits move towards the west here. Oh dear, these 40mm could go down. Come on, EliteJager. Rückzug, Rückzug. And looks like he will not be saving them in time. Very, very depressive. One 40mm squad gone, and looks like another one will be lost. Very tragic right there. Nope. Apparently they both made it out there. Wasn't quite paying attention. Can happen, I'm afraid, though never fun. But rather looks like EliteJager is very much in dire trouble. And the mine laid down in front of him was actually hit by the Panther. Veterans C3 rifle, and that's definitely going to be a problem for EliteJager. Panther advances straight at the 30 caliber. Heavy cover that will make it easier. And the Panzergrenadiers squad went down, and no Panzergrenadiers left for EliteJager.
We are losing a sector.
Panther advanced. Gets off a nice kill.
Our forward supply lines are broken.
Securing the central victory point. And lighter fighting going on here. Rifle going straight for the Panther. Might get off a sticky bomb again. And they do. I imagine much to EliteJager's chagrin. Or chagrin. Rather here getting blasted. And I mean, he's actually doing quite a nice job in actually limiting the overall effectiveness of the Panthers simply through the sticky bombs. It is also quite clear that Ozo is very much relying on the off-map combat groups. And I mean, even the slightest very wrong one could pretty much throw him completely out of the match. Rifleman pulling up. Jäger's opening up. Rifleman being pushed away. And the Luftwaffe troops are quickly marshalled out once more to try and get those Panthers battle-worthy once more. But question is, will they ever be? And another Jäger squad moves out. So many valiantly sacrificed by EliteJager in a less than elite manner.
The enemy is down.
Jägers here coming under fire from Veterans C3 Rifle, and the Veterans C3 Rifle just tearing through them. More Jägers moving up, and again, intense fire from the Rifleman. The more veteran squad even faltering a bit. Not looking good for EliteJager. Point continue to go down. Off-map combat group very close. Very close. There we go. Rifleman, anti-tank gun, and a tank not a tank destroyer, but an armored car. Moving in from several sides, the Panthers, the Jägers, everything is just so depleted from EliteJager. After so much fighting, it could be that EliteJager is simply just stumbling down. And there we go, the Panthers in fact immobilized.
Enemy unit down.
Jägers here getting caught. The Panthers sort of being pushed into battle, slightly repaired, slightly polished. While the Jägers here caught in the middle of everything and just getting sacrificed by EliteJager. Senselessly, without purpose. And there we go, the Panther rise, but at the same time the victory points are falling. Panther, immobilized by it, are trying to do what he can, but again, it simply can't kill the Rifleman quickly enough. T-17 taking hits, and the points are simply going down, falling, and just speed it up. I mean, it's pretty much clear where this is going, and GG from both players. Game over. A loss to the 2nd SS Panzerdivision Das Reich, a victory for the Americans. I mean, the lessons from this rather came down to basically, I mean, he spread out his forces too much, and in some ways EliteJager was simply, too timid. He was never quite focused enough, and he didn't quite get the full effect out of his Panzergrenadiers. He never really fully, gave ExitOzo some real damage, and ultimately, again, I think the Panther Battle Group was a mistake. He should not have rushed for it. Instead, he should have used the Panzer Air Command and the Panzer Support Command to come up with a concoction, with a force composition that could much sooner have done something against infantry and any armor again, Martyrs and Panzer IV. But instead, he resorted to the Panther, and ultimately, he was a bit weak, considerably weaker for that, in fact. Also, on the other hand, I mean, he got rather lucky with his initial off-mech combat groups, but also, again, it didn't help that, again, that EliteJager was very much vulnerable to it, but this could very much have been won by EliteJager, to be honest, because again, he was very much relying on the off-mech combat groups, and again, he had poor unit preservation and not very good anything towards attrition. There's some medic stations, so really some problems there from ExitOzo, which needs to be worked on, and again, it very could have easily ended up in a loss for him. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed this match. Hope you learned something from it. If you did, why not subscribe? Tell your friends. If you didn't, well, why not send a replay of your own or provide some feedback? This is Imperial Dane saying cheers.